And there's something else besides Trump that Biden has to worry about. RFK Jr.'s making noise. He has the highest favorability rating out of everybody. About half the country actually likes the guy. His support's growing. In a three-way race nationally, RFK Jr. is pulling near 15% of the vote. That qualifies him for the presidential debates. That could be the greatest television ever, besides Jesse Watters Primetime. Kennedy, Trump, Biden, all on the same stage. No wonder Barack's taking the reins of the Biden campaign. No wonder Clinton's coming out of retirement. No wonder tickets are 500,000. Without donors, lawyers, and old faces, Biden doesn't even have a campaign. Let's bring in presidential candidate RFK Jr. We're hearing there's this gang of really nasty Democrat attorneys working for Biden that are just going to rip your throat out and strip your name off the ballot, RFK Jr. What's going on? Do you have a plan?
Yeah, they've already filed complaints or actions against us in Hawaii and Nevada, and we expect this in virtually every state. And, Jesse, when I was a kid, the Democratic Party was at the lead of fighting for voting rights for every American. And now the Democratic Party is doing everything it can to disenfranchise people and make sure that people can't vote for who they want to, using litigation against me. And, I'm not a fan of President Trump's, but I want to beat him in a fair fight. I don't want to win because of some scurrilous or spurious legal action against him that takes him off, removes him from the ballot and deprives Americans of the right to vote for somebody they want to vote for. And, the Democratic Party ought to stand for voting rights and encouraging as many people to vote as possible and giving them as many choices. That's what democracy is. It's not, the party in the Soviet Union, the political party would choose the candidates, and you had these kind of faux elections. And that's now what we're looking at in this country, where the political party has ordained its candidate and is doing everything it can to make sure that nobody else can get on the ballot.
You can see there's a lot of anger in the streets. I don't know if you can see the screen now, but there are mobs of angry Democrats, young Democrats, just furious with the Biden foreign policy. How do you see that shaking out?
Well, right now I'm doing better with young Americans than either President Trump or President Biden. I'm winning among young Americans under the age of 35 nationally. I'm beating both President Trump and President Biden in the battleground states among young Americans. I'm also winning among independents, which, Jesse, this year, for the first time in history, independents are the largest political affiliation. So 43% of Americans self-identify as independents versus only 27% of Democrats, 27% Republicans. And, so the one group that I'm in a three-way tie with Hispanic voters. The one group that I do poorly with is baby boomers, because they're watching MSNBC
the
and
baby
CNN.
boomers. Aren't you a baby boomer? That doesn't make any sense to me. RFK Jr., let me ask you a question. Joe Biden snubs the funeral of Officer Diller. He doesn't go. He tapes a podcast and does a fundraiser. Do you think that was a compassionate thing to do? I don't know what the thinking was in the Biden White House. I don't think it was a good judgment. Let me put it that way. This is a time, particularly now in New York City, when people are very, very concerned about public safety, and we need to support the police, and we need to make sure that law enforcement is protecting every community, but we need to support the police. And your VP choice,
who give their
your VP choice, Shanahan, how do you think she would do against Kamala Harris in a VP debate?
I think she's going to do very well. She's very, very smart. She's very likable. She has a calm, rational mind, and she has an encyclopedic grasp of the issues. And I think she has a real vision for what's wrong with this country. You know, one of the issues, you know, that we look at is that, you know, both of these presidential candidates, President Trump and President Biden, are kind of locked into a system, Jesse, of this corrupt merger of state and corporate power that both of them are part of. President Trump and President Biden ran up the biggest debt in American history. The two of them ran up a debt equivalent in their 4 years in office to all previous presidents combined, up to George Washington. The chronic disease epidemic, the war machine, all of these are the products of a corrupt system that they ultimately are part of. And the only solution is to dismantle that system. And I think that's why people are looking for me, because I have 40 years of experience doing that.
All right, you're going to plug your website, and then I'm going to tell you we have to go to tease. Thank you very much, RFK Jr.
Thank you, Jesse. Kennedy24.com.
Okay, all right. Get it under the radar. I see it. Thanks so much. Good luck. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.